Contact forms are really, really important. And if you don't set them up right, you're really going to set yourself up for failure. I've been doing lead generation online for a really long time. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, how to set up your contact form so that you get the most out of it, and so does your sales team. Okay, so when I say contact form, I just basically mean going and clicking contact on a website and going to a form where somebody's going to fill that out. There's so many different ways to create forms on the web right now. It actually gets pretty confusing. So, you know, YouTube now has an ability to have a form that shows right inside of YouTube, and then that gets passed through to the person who's serving the ad. Facebook has the same thing, these type of native forms. So forms now, they live all over the place, and you can set up forms on your website through Instapage, through Unbounce, through Sumo, there's so many different ways to do it, right? So, you know, how do you really go about doing it? Well, the way that I've generally like to do it is have at least one main form that's just a clean form for a lead generation site, and that first step is really simple. Because if that first step is really simple, you're at least going to capture some information. So what's the lowest barrier to entry within that first step? Then you can have multiple other steps, and when you're going through these multiple other steps, you always want to show the status of, are you on step 1, 2, 3, 4. You always want the form to load very, very quickly, right? So you don't want any type of lag time at all. And it's nice if you can have the form so that every single step captures information and then sends it, captures information, then sends it, captures information, then sends it, so that you can utilize that information. If somebody leaves, you can do email automation to them, or if you get some of the information, somebody can follow up with them if they don't get all the way through to the transaction. But then that final transaction, that last one, would be a hard goal. And then what you want to do is think about, how does this form integrate with your CRM, right? So all your big database where you keep all your customer information. So you might be using a HubSpot or a Salesforce, or you might be using something different like an Infusionsoft. There's a lot of different CRMs out there, but it's really important that your form integrates with the CRM. What happens a lot is these things don't talk to each other well. People waste a bunch of money. They lose leads. They just have it going to an email address. The person managing the email address doesn't care. You know, it's a newer employee. They're like, whatever, you know, it's a lead. I don't care. The business owner, they're thinking, oh man, I really want that lead, right? Because they're spending that money. So it's good to really have this all dialed in. And one way that I really like to do it is to connect your form to Salesforce. So if your form goes into Salesforce or another CRM, it automatically populates in there. That automatically goes to a very competent person who can then assign that to somebody, and then there's different layers within that sales funnel. So this is new, this is getting closer, this is getting closer, this one is, you know, in contract or whatever you have, and then this one's closed type of thing. And that's pretty common. You'll see that that's how they have it set up at many car dealerships, many types of lead generation types of businesses. So, you know, thinking about that is really, really important. And you know, you don't want to have this big bulky form. You want it to be super easy to use. You want to capture data at every single point, and then you want to have it within a CRM. And then when it's in the CRM, you want to make sure that you're keeping really good notes on how you're interacting with that prospect, because if they say contact me in 6 months, that's when you reach back out. If they say that, you know, I didn't want this service but I want another one, you know, and so on and so forth. Or if they become a prospect and they sign up but it was only a short-term commitment and then they close out, you know, you can reach back out to those type of people again. So this whole world, you know, is pretty important. And also, if you get their data, you know, that becomes a very important part of your marketing strategy, right? Because if you capture a lead, now what you can do is you can take these leads, you can upload them to Facebook, you can upload them to Google, and then you can serve ads to them, but you can also create lookalike audiences or similar audiences. So these are audiences that are similar and have the same characteristics as the leads that have come in before. So these are new prospects that you're building off of the data that you're capturing on your lead form. So that's just a little bit about contact forms. You know, it gets a lot more tricky when you start thinking about e-commerce sites, or you start thinking about apps, or you start thinking about aggregator sites. These type of things get a little bit more complicated. I've personally worked with quite a few of them, and you know, really, you know, my mind kind of goes to when I worked with some invitation type of sites, or you know, there's also one where it was like gift baskets and stuff like that, where, you know, it could be somebody buying it but they're shipping it to somewhere else, and so many different touch points. And then there was one I worked with pretty in depth that was a cell phone company, that it was so many different stages in the funnel. There's pretty much always, when you go into the e-commerce side and you go into these complicated forms, some way that you can streamline the process and make things much, much easier so that you can save more money. So make sure you invest a little bit of time in your checkout process, especially in this new mobile world, because it's probably driving some people nuts. So that's it for checkout processes today. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you next time.